If I can have this list and I can get exactly what I want, then I won't get hurt. You can apply that to anything, right? Not just relationship.
Why is it that we're on the chase for something?
If you're too rigid and too fear-based, you could push away something that could be really great.
It's so programmed in our DNA to want that. Why? Like, did you ever even ask yourself, why do you want that? What will happen if you actually get that? How will that make you feel?
I think a lot of, especially high-achieving women, when we hear slowing down, we make that mean a lot of things.
And that's a trigger.
It's a huge trigger.
What have you now recognized in Christine, like, 3.0?
I recognize that life is so much more enjoyable when you stop caring so much what other people think.
Hey loves, do me a quick favor and hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are tuning into this. It helps grow the show more than you know. Thank you so much again and enjoy.
Hello, Brave Table fam. Welcome to another episode of The Brave Table. I'm your host, Dr. Neeta, and this is your oasis, your destination to be all things just a little bit more brave in your actions, in your relationships, and in your life. And Brave Table fam, this has been a long-awaited conversation. Today, my guest will blow you away because not only is she one of the OGs in the coaching, personal transformation space, she has helped hundreds of thousands of women unlock their truest potential. But let me ask you this. Have you experienced disappointment? Maybe within the last week, within the last month, disappointment within yourself, disappointment with your loved ones, with your children. Have you ever traced the root back? Maybe back to your inner child, back to your inner teen. Now, my guest today is none other than Christine Hassler, who has been one of the pioneering women in the face and force of personal growth and women's leadership, sacred leadership, and becoming a queen in your life. She is a master coach, best-selling author, and keynote speaker with over 15 years of experience in the personal development field, renowned for her ability to guide individuals through life transitions and help them break through emotional and mental blocks. Christine has empowered thousands to find clarity and lead more fulfilling lives. She hosts the very popular podcast, Over It and On With It, where she blends compassionate coaching with actionable advice to support listeners in their personal growth journeys. We'll also link my episode on her podcast for you all this week. And her best-selling book, which has now been around for 10 years, Expectation Hangover, offers powerful strategies for navigating disappointment and turning setbacks into breakthroughs. Her career began in Hollywood after being one of the youngest agents in her 20s, and after experiencing her own major life transitions, she found her calling in guiding others to connect more deeply with themselves and achieve authentic happiness. She's been featured on The Today Show, CNN, and numerous other platforms. Christine is recognized as a thought leader in helping people release limiting beliefs and embrace transformative change. In this episode today, we talk about navigating life transitions with grace. So whether you are navigating a divorce, a setback, a relationship setback, motherhood, being an empty nester, getting out there again and dating, this is the episode for you. We also talk about how to overcome expectation hangovers and also how to break through emotional blocks. Now, we talk about what it means to be the queen in every era and every season of life. And we also talk about what are things to do and say when your nervous system is in hyperdrive, what that actually means, how to see that in yourself, and also when your inner child is screaming for support. You all are going to love Christine. This has been a long time coming, and I'm so excited we get to bring her into the Brave Table this week to talk all things. So buckle up because you are going to go for a ride. This is an episode that I think you're going to share with tons of people, and you're going to probably want to come back and even take notes. So without further ado, let's welcome Christine Hassler this week. Hi, Christine.
Hi.
Oh, wow. This has been a long time coming.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I've missed you.
I know. I know. And you're so close.
I know.
Okay. With every start to every episode, I have somebody pull our affirmation card deck for for setting our intention for this.
I love that.
All right, so shall we?
Yeah.
I'll pick one for you. We'll go just right in the middle here. There it is.
Okay.
Okay.
I attract everything and everyone aligned with my purpose. I am magnetic. I love that.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll just start there.
We just talked about that, right?
We just talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you braving currently?
Uncertainty,
Okay.
change, not knowing, feeling so clear about like what I'm here to do, and then kind of going, well, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in a lot of uncertainty and not knowing, which is humbling because I have been someone that really likes to know and really likes a plan.
Yes. And I feel like when I met you probably, I don't know, close to almost a decade ago now,
A while ago.
You were like at your prime.
Yeah.
You had just kind of, you had shifted from being that Hollywood agent.
That was 20 years ago.
Okay, that was 20 years ago. But I feel like that is a big part of your story.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of where a lot of people kind of know you and you got this start. And I know for my audience, they haven't really heard that because you were this like queen that was goal getting and at the top of your field. Like I can imagine you like hustling because now I see you in a very different light now, but like, at one point.
Oh yeah.
So can you just paint that picture for us and kind of share how that led for, to where you are today?
Oh, well, I'll try to shorten this. But the era you're speaking to, my Hollywood era, was, straight out of college and moving out to Hollywood, propelled by a boatload of insecurity and a need to prove my worth in the world. All this was very subconscious, of course. I really thought that I wanted to work in Hollywood. And there were things I liked about it, but I really, now upon reflection, it was really about, this is where I can be somebody. And the thing about insecurity is it can make you very successing.
Oh yeah.
It can really drive you. So can anxiety and low self-worth and that need to prove. And so I was very successful. I was, I think, one of the youngest ever female agents, and I was dating the head of a movie studio at the time. So my life looked like jets and Hollywood parties and Oscars and Golden Globes and going into Harry Winston's, the jewelry store, and being adorned with $20,000 worth of diamonds for a party or the Golden Globes or whatever. This is all like my early 20s.
Wow.
And I remember sitting at New Year's at an intimate party, I don't know, like 5 couples. And I was sitting next to George Clooney, who by default ended up being my date that evening because both of our dates got just blasted out of their minds. And he was like, do you want to be my date? And I was like, yes. And I remember sitting with him and like being like, wait a second. I'm sitting across from George Clooney and there's still something like deep down missing. And this is before I had dealt with my trauma, remembered a lot of my trauma. And I'm sure for people listening, they're like, that doesn't sound like such a rough life. But when you have that kind of life that everyone looks at as like, you should be happy and you're not, it was a big red flag for me that something deeper was going on. And it didn't matter what external boxes I checked. I had to do some work inside. I just had no clue what that was going to be.
Right.
Wow. So it took a while. It took, continuing on that train because I thought I just needed more. And once I got here, I lived in when then. Like when I get promoted, then this. When my boyfriend isn't an addict anymore, then I'll feel this. Like constantly living in the when thens. And because that's how I found certainty, was living in the future.
Sure.
And it all kind of came crashing down one moment. I called it my quarter life crisis, and that was the impetus for my next career. And that's when I really started to do the deep internal work. And I had been seeing therapists since I was 11. I was put on antidepressants when I was 11.
Wow.
So my mental health had always been something that was there, but I just kind of was like, I'll take my meds and, this is just the way I'm wired, Yeah. And in my early to mid 20s is when it all started to kind of come in my face. And I chose, all right, like I really want to look at this. So I found a life coach, which was hard to find back then because now you throw a rock, you hit a life coach. But
it's true.
but back then it was not a thing. And I went to go see her, and it was the first time I sat across from someone who didn't look at me like a problem. You know, he didn't look at me wanting to diagnose me. She didn't look at me like she wanted to fix me. She really helped me realize I wasn't broken. And from there, the deeper work started. And that's when I got on this path and fell in love with it so much and wrote my first book, which came out in 2005. I can't even believe.
Which one was this?
20-something, 20 everything.
Oh, wow.
It was my first book.
Okay.
And I never thought I wanted to be an author. I never thought I wanted to be a coach. But in writing that book and interviewing people said, you have a knack for this. And so that just led to then being trained as a coach, apprenticing with Mona, getting my two master's degrees along the way, and, you know, lots of training along the 20 years that I've been doing this. So like for many people, my greatest passion and my whole career was born out of a need I had, you know, and something that I fell in love with. It truly helped me.
Wow. And I kind of want to double click on, you know, what you shared in the beginning of our insecurities, our low self-worth can make us really successful.
Really successful, or really good at staying in toxic situations, really great at people pleasing, excellent at being codependent.
Yeah.
All those things.
All of those things. And so when you started to really dive into that work, what started to unlock, or what did you start to see, and what were kind of the themes in your life?
Well, first, a lot of panic because I didn't have a new operating system yet. And I think with anything, any kind of like deep transformation where we're actually rewiring and we're getting out of survival programming and actually down to the essence of who we are, which we probably forgot many, many years ago, back when we've had our first trauma and we developed the survival patterns, it can feel really scary because it's like, well, wait a second, the steering wheel just fell off my car.
Right.
And I'm going down this highway and like I have no way to steer. So I think that it was a, 2 steps forward, 1 step back for me for a while before I really was able to find my true inspiration, which is, I think, a lot different from motivation. Yeah. Motivation is that pushing. Our inner critics can be great at motivating us, but inspiration is that pull that's not coming from trying to prove anything. And I even in my 30s, when you met me, when I was really in the prime of my career, I mean, speaking all over the world, and my 3rd book had come out, and there was just a lot that was going on. I definitely was inspired, but there was still that place, and I know this because I burnt out. There was still that place that was pushing, right? And that was like, well, but am I really enough? Do they really like me? And it wasn't until I really dealt with kind of all my trauma, I pulled up the whole rug, took the rug out of the room and looked at everything and did some incredibly profound inner work, that I had really an identity death, and the whole kind of brand of Christine Hassler went away. And it was such a relieving feeling. And the only downside is I haven't really found my ambition. But then I asked myself, is that a problem?
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
And why is it that we're on the chase for something?
Right.
Can there be a new normal?
Can there be a new normal? And also, can there be seasons? Like we're both in the young kid phase.
Oh, yeah.
And I had my child in my 40s. So I had 2 decades of like career focus, right? And me focus and self-care focus and relationship focus and all of that. And so I'm like, you know what? Maybe having this ambition dialed down and having this like wanting to nurture and spend time with my daughter, maybe this really isn't a problem. And maybe I'm just kind of recalibrating and reorienting and being in the uncertainty of it and being in the season of it. Because that's one thing I'm embracing more, is the seasons in life.
Oh, yeah.
Because I used to think like, okay, it's going to be this way forever. And even though rationally we know that's not true, I think we cling on to certain identities too tightly.
Oh my gosh. And I can so resonate with that, because I feel like not only is it culturally or societally, like that's just ingrained in our minds of like, all right, the push, the go. But then you know, having, you know, to your point, I feel like when you have kind of peeled back the real layers, like, you know, I used to have the biggest chip on my shoulder for kind of wanting to prove people wrong based on, you know, a lot of the things that I went through. So I could so resonate with that. But now when you're on the other side of that and you're like, oh, okay, like I can slow down. And so what is wrong with the slowdown? And is it the fact that, you know, and I don't know, this is just a curious question, but is it the fact that we don't want to slow down or embrace this season because there is something to chase, or the fact that everybody else is not doing that?
I have become way more comfortable with saying I don't know, which wasn't something I used to say. Even if I really didn't know something, I'd make up the answer. And usually it sounded pretty good.
You're pretty good at that.
Either for myself or for someone else. And I think for me, motherhood has been really humbling because I was so good at so much for so long. And then I had a kid. I was like, whoa, this is new terrain.
And
like,
you had a daughter too.
Yeah, fiery daughter who named herself Athena. So it's been like a truly humbling beginner's experience for me. And I think I've allowed that beginner's mind to come to other aspects of my life, because I think a lot of, especially high achieving women, when we hear slowing down, that we make that mean a lot of things.
And that's a trigger.
It's a huge trigger because it means, well, what's going to happen to everything I worked? Like, how am I going to And I think what really, if we get to subconsciously why that's a trigger, is because when we slow down, we have to sit with whatever it is that we've been running from. And all of us are running from something. Like, even if you think you didn't have a traumatic childhood, I mean, we can break down the definition of trauma, but there were things that happened that have caused you to act and react in certain ways. We all are, in an extent, programmed. And so much of personal transformation is deprogramming ourselves. And when we slow down, you know, not only do we fear losing relevance and significance, which is a big thing, because for most high achieving women, there is some root insecurity. At some point, maybe it was in our home. For me, it was more with peers. There was somewhere we felt either too much or not enough, and like we didn't belong. And so this operating system of like, I need to be this in order to fill in the blank, it becomes a huge survival strategy. So it's hard to shake.
I mean, I think survival is like the biggest thing.
Yes.
Because, okay, how are you going to be placed?
Right.
Within your social constructs, within everything else. And then it has to literally deprogram everything that you were told growing up about success, about worthiness, about contribution, about value, and you're just like kind of like hitting it on its head. But what I really love is that, you know, in this season, for you especially, I think that what's so beautiful is now you're kind of learning how to walk again.
Yeah.
And what have you now recognized in, you know, Christine, like 3.0?
Well, I recognize that life is so much more enjoyable when you stop caring so much what other people think.
Ooh.
It is just so much more relaxing. It's so much more fun. It's so much less stressful. And I'm not saying I'm 100% at this, but I've come a long way. It's also not so like not working towards some kind of goal all the time is such a relief. And I don't think you realize until you're off that treadmill. Like, if you're a high achieving person, you've always got a goal. There's something you're always working toward. And I know most of the people listening, they've set their New Year's intentions. They have their plan, right?
Got the plan.
They got the plan or the goals or the intention. And it's like you're always working towards something. And I can appreciate that because I understand that so many of us want to live our fullest and best life. But the huge misunderstanding in that is that we have to do something in order to live our fullest and best life. And I think so many women have disconnected from the superpower of the feminine of receiving and surrendering. I mean, superpower of the feminine, receiving, basic anatomy, everybody. It's like so obvious. But we
like, I If you're watching this on YouTube, Christine just pointed to our creator space. So there we go.
Yeah, there we go. But I mean, but literally, like it's how we're built, but it's not how we operate most of the time. And so I just challenge anybody listening, like, if you think letting go of so many goals and doing means that things in your life won't happen, I just challenge that. Challenge your thinking that, you know, I need to do in order to live this life. Now, I'm not saying we can just sit on our couch and wait for Amazon to deliver our dreams, but I feel so much the inner work and taking inspired action. That's what leads us towards what we truly are in most alignment with. And I have seen in 20 years of coaching people, and I coach all people, mostly women, and I've coached many women of this avatar we're talking, you and I.
Yes, exactly.
And you know, what I see time and time again is what they think they want is actually not in alignment with who they are.
So true. It's like, you know, it's like thinking about, you know, all of the goals, and then, you know, you're so conditioned to write down all of these goals and I want X, Y, and Z. But it's so programmed in our DNA to want that. Why? Like, did you ever even ask yourself, why do you want that? What will happen if you actually get that? How will that make you feel? You know, and I love, because you talk so much about this on your podcast, and even you know, which the book that I love the most, that I feel like so many people resonate with. And if you haven't heard of this book, you definitely should get it. It's like, I think it's a classic.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, really, the Expectation Hangover. Because can you just give a synopsis of what this book was trying to achieve for so many people? Because I think that goes to the point of allowing us as women to be able to wait and receive, because perhaps maybe we have these expectation hangovers either in our relationships, etc. So can we talk about that?
Yeah, well, thank you. I love that book. This is the 10-year anniversary of it.
No way.
Yeah. And I just recorded it in my voice, because the original Audible recording was not in my voice. So I just recorded it in my voice.
So glad you did that.
Yeah, it's out on Audible now. So if you want to hear it in my voice, it's there.
Link it.
So I wrote Expectation Hangover because I was really sick of all the pep talking that was going on in the personal growth industry and all the like positive psychology. And that's not a diss on that. I think it definitely has a place. But I have found that, you know, it was kind of Band-Aidy. And so many people, you know, they actually transform and they have breakthroughs because something disappointing happens. But often the advice is, you know, be strong, find the silver lining, like change your mindset. And then that might help for a little while, but then the same disappointment comes out again. And I had been a coach for 10 years at that point when I wrote it, and had completed my master's in spiritual psychology and consciousness, health and healing, and a lot of nervous system training. And I was pretty knee deep in things, and I had just gotten divorced. And what I saw is, okay, I help people leverage their disappointment. Not get over it, not make it feel better, not put a Band-Aid on it, but really leverage it. Because when I got divorced, someone said to me, milk this for all it's worth. And at first I was like, well, we're not even going to court. Like, I thought he was talking about alimony or something. And he's like, no. Like, milk this grief, this loss, this disappointment for all it's worth, so you never have to go through it in this way again. And I was like, yes, I'm doing that. And so I really allowed myself to go in, not into like suffering or being a victim, because leveraging disappointment is not about being a victim in any way, shape, or form. It's really about coming into acceptance of what is happening or not happening, and then go, okay, yes, the basic question everyone kind of knows is, why is this happening for me? But let's go deeper than that to, what is this reminding me of? Most expectation hangovers, they have roots. If the entelechy of an acorn is an oak tree, the entelechy of the human soul is to evolve. And it will always be, your soul will always be wanting you to grow in consciousness. So if there's things in your past that have happened that have like sat in your cells and your nervous system and your subconscious, and like the psyche of your inner child, as hurtful, as loss, as abandonment, as rejection, as trauma, as you name it, your soul is going to attract things in your life to press that button again so that you actually can heal it. Mm-hmm. And so any expectation hangover is a huge opportunity for healing. So I define it as things don't turn out like you planned. Things do turn out like you planned, but you don't feel like you thought you would. Like you finally get that great job, but you don't feel all the confidence you wanted. Or life throws you an unexpected curveball, you know, a breakup, an illness, a death, whatever. And you're left with, you're left with disappointment. Mm-hmm. And it's uncomfortable. And so I really wrote Expectation Hangover to hold people in the discomfort and just be like, come in, the water's warm, sit here for a while. Don't try to jump to feeling better so soon, because you're probably going to then have to do this again.
Ooh, yeah. Sit in the water while it's warm. Oh,
yes.
I love that. I love that analogy.
Yes.
Wow. And what a full circle moment to come, 10 years later.
I know.
This book is so relevant.
It goes so fast.
and it's wild because you have been the queen of really allowing people to step into this healing your inner child. And so what are some of because you also have used a lot of this work to attract your now partner. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when I first met you, you were divorced and kind of you had the spaciousness, obviously super at the top of your career, and of course single.
Very single. Yeah.
But single in a way where, were you not looking for people? Were you closed off?
Yes, and yes. I went through every kind of phase of being single. I went through the when I got divorced at, I don't know, my early 30s, maybe 31, I can't remember. I had been in relationships since 18. Mm-hmm. I just kind of jumped from one man to the next. And so at first it was like, all right, I had one little rebound after the divorce, and then I was like, oh my God, I just need some space. And so for a while it was, I just want to work on me. I just want to build my career. I don't want to be distracted by relationships. Because for women, until we really find our center, relationships can be very distracting. I think for anyone, but especially women, because there's a lot of unconscious programming around relationships and being chosen and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So then there was the whole so that was phase one. I'm single and I love it and I'm just going to work on me. Mm-hmm. And then there was the whole, I'm single and I'm happy and I don't need a man, but if one comes along, I'm open to it. But I wasn't really open.
I can relate.
Yeah. And then there was the I'm intentional about my relationship. I'm calling it in, but I wasn't really open because I was holding on to it very tightly. I was very controlling about what specifically I wanted it to look like. And then we got to the last phase, which actually was the phase that I was able to call him in. But we're talking about nearly a decade of going through this. And I dated and I had a boyfriend here or there. But when I say very single, I really was in a time in my life where I don't think I would have been capable of one, calling in the most aligned person, and two, really showing up.
And so how did you step into then, be the queen that really calls in? Because and Stephanos has been on the podcast as well, and so we will link his episode in the show notes so you can see her amazing other co-partner. And how did that whole thing happen, and who did you need to become?
Well, I needed to not be a little girl anymore, operating as a grown woman.
Okay, talk more about that. So
if you look at who I was attracted to and even who I married, because I've been engaged 3 times, married twice. So if you line them all up, there's not a type except for whatever issue I was working through at the time, whatever unresolved thing. After my divorce, I would date this string of really attractive, charismatic, possibly narcissistic guys who would run from commitment, and that was my 14-year-old. My 37-year-old wasn't choosing those men. My 14-year-old who always had the crush on the cool guy in class, and he always liked another girl. And what would happen is I'd date these guys and they'd be like, I don't want a relationship. And then they'd break up with me and go like date and marry somebody else. So it was like middle school and high school playing out over again.
Your inner teen.
My inner teen.
Yeah.
You know, and then I can look at my little girl and the times I dated daddy and the times I dated mommy, and just like I had to be the mother, father, and partner to my inner child myself, instead of looking for someone else to do that for me. And we all do this. We all have unmet needs from childhood. And I don't care who your parents were, like they're human.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be some unmet needs that were there. And not just, you know, it's not just our parents. We have needs from society. We have needs from our culture. We have needs from our peers. So our needs are not just in the home. You know, our needs are broad as children. And when they aren't met, we subconsciously try to get them met, and often through romantic partners. I mean, most often it's stuff with our parents, but it can play out in any way. And so if we want to call in someone who is like meeting our present day self and who we can travel into the future with, then we've got to clear out as much as that as we can, or at least be conscious of it. You know, I remember as I was sorting through it, I had one last hurrah before I met Steph, where like I knew, I'm like, this is my 16-year-old, but I'm just going to do it for a little while because like, he's really cute and it's really fun.
At least you knew. You had the awareness.
I knew.
You've done the work.
I knew, and I fought for it a little while, and he's like, and I'm like, all right. And he's like, let's be friends. I'm like, no, delete, block. And so there was like a little like dip my toe in. And then after that, I'm like, I am clear. Like, I am clear that my grown, healthy adult self, not my adapted child, is going to not even pick my person, but really call in my person. And then the other thing I did is I really surrendered it, because I had a long list of what I required, my non-negotiables.
Right, of course.
Any good single woman has her list of non-negotiables and ideal vision. Yeah, in our course, we burn all that down. And I, like New Year's Eve, I went out to my fire pit and I was like, okay, God, I clearly don't trust you. Like, I clearly don't, because I'm being so controlling about this list. I'm coming from so much fear, right? Because I didn't want to get hurt again.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if I can have this list and I can get exactly what I want, then I won't get hurt. And you can apply that to anything, right?
Sure.
Not just relationships.
Sure.
And so it was really terrifying to go, universe, surrender to, like, you pick. You and my higher self pick. And I'm burning this list, and I am actually truly open. Wow. And that was the first time in my life I was actually open.
And you burned the non-negotiables.
I burned it. And when I met Steph, there was a big blaring non-negotiable that he did not have. A huge one. And now I have a kid with him.
And he was on the other side of the world.
Yeah, and that was like not even a non-negotiable. He lived in Perth and I lived in San Diego. So literally couldn't be more on the opposite sides of the world. But it was a financial thing. And that was a huge, I think it was like 3 or 4 on my list, must make as much or more than me.
Ooh, that's a big one. That's on a lot of people's lists. And so you teach people in your signature program to burn that list. Okay, talk about that, because there's so many other things around, the feminine and the masculine, and
we throw all that out the window.
And does that throw you into the masculine then? Okay, can you give us a taste?
So let's talk about there's a lot, like the feminine and masculine, I think we teach it at such an elementary level, like unless you really dive deep into the archetypical and into the history and into the true essence of it, we kind of teach it very, not we like me, but in our world at a very elementary level, that you're in your masculine if you're in your doing energy, and you're in your feminine if you're in your being, and if you're like controlling, that's your masculine energy. No. Where I sit, women like past me, who are more controlling and more kind of doing, we're actually not in our masculine, we're in a trauma response. It has nothing to do with our masculine energy. We have developed a hypervigilant pattern to take care of ourselves. It may appear masculine, but it's actually feminine energy that has gone into hypervigilance. Because I bet if I polled most women who want to call in a man, most of them would say, well, I actually do feel like I'm feminine. Like if I had to choose what's my essence, feminine or masculine, I would choose feminine. And they probably have coaches and friends and people say, well, you're never going to get a guy unless you get out of your masculine energy. If I had a nickel for every time somebody said that to me, I'm like, oh my Lord. So no, it's not bad. It's more about dealing with the inner child stuff and the nervous system dysregulation that you've been in that has put you in a pattern of hypervigilance that looks like masculinity, but it's actually not. Because healthy masculine isn't doing all the time.
Right.
That's actually not what healthy masculine is. Healthy masculine is productive and directive and contained and holds space and is solid. And so many women are actually just running around like crazy and looking masculine, but that's actually not healthy masculine. That's hypervigilance.
It's trauma response.
Exactly. So in Be the Queen, we really kind of like dismantle this whole like, you need to be more in your feminine and help women get out of hypervigilance. So one, their nervous system can calm down and they can attract from a healthier place, right? Because when our nervous system is regulated, we're less likely to go into inner child programming, right? Because we can be in the present moment. When our nervous system is dysregulated, we're more likely to time travel. And then we're going to attract from a more wounded place and we're going to get different results, right? So
and when we're attracting from that wounded place,
yes,
we're going to select
yes,
our inner teen, our inner child.
Yes, exactly. Or someone in a relationship hurt you before, you kind of try that whole thing again to prove it wasn't you. You know, there's all different things that we do in our subconscious that isn't actually what we want, but we think it's what we want because our subconscious is so powerful. So, you know, we help you. And the reason I designed this program is because when I did meet Steph and people who had been following me for a while were like, how did you do it? I'm like, all right, well, let me sit down and actually put it together. And we launched the first course in 2019.
Wow.
We've had thousands of women go through it, and we have an over 60% success rate. Of those we survey, we don't even know, some people might not even fill it out, of women who find their match within a year of completing the program. Because we do such deep, but we do it in a way that's gentle, right? And that's effective. And, you know, one of the things that we talked about is throwing out those non-negotiables, but I just want to clarify, it's not about settling, right? It's not about being in toxic relationships. It's like, I'll give an example just to paint the picture. So I mentioned the non-negotiable for me was the money thing with Steph. I mean, and we talked about this openly. So, because he was not, it wasn't just that he wasn't making money, he was in debt. Like it was, I remember we were in Estonia.
Oh yes. I was there that year.
Yes.
I think I was pregnant. Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't.
2018, not yet.
No,
I was.
2018, I was.
You were?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. So you were like newly
I was
pregnant.
newly pregnant,
Yeah. Okay. So, and I remember we were sitting at a little cafe and we start talking about it and he tells me and I'm just like, I had to really, because I really liked him because we had 3 months of getting to know each other over WhatsApp and we met in Greece and it was great and we had chemistry and and then we get down to the numbers and there, I could feel the part of me that wanted to run. And something I checked in, and this is the other thing, when we really develop our connection with our feminine, I checked in with my intuition, right? Not my fear, different places in the body. And I asked myself, like, should I end this now? And the answer was no. And the thing about intuition, it doesn't give you like no because usually it's just a yes and a no. And I've learned to follow that because no now could mean no later. Yes, you know, it can change. And the guidance I got was like, get to know him a little bit, like just see. Now, what I saw in a month of traveling around with him was an incredible work ethic and an incredible talent. And someone who lived in, you know, Perth, which is the other side of the world, that didn't have support, that didn't really have the connections I did. And I saw him work. Like I saw that in him. And I felt like, well, you know, I'm going to kind of just give this a test and give him a few opportunities and then just get out of the way. I did not coach him. And he just took off. And now it would have been a different story if we'd had this conversation about money and I saw him kind of just like working on his film script or,
Right.
just doing nothing, not having a work ethic and being irresponsible and not asking great questions. And just his relationship to it was like, he'd had no shame. It's like, this is where I am now and it's not who I am and it's not going to be where, where I end up. And within a year, his whole financial picture changed. And now, when I had our daughter, he really took over.
Wow.
So that's what I mean about, non-negotiable at first, something that could be a deal breaker just based on a very rigid list could push away. And this could be a job, this could be a friendship, this could be a city you want to live in, this could be a relationship. If you're too rigid and too fear-based, you could push away something that could be really great.
It kind of reminds me of the time where I said I would not date any Indian men after I divorced an Indian man. And then all of a sudden I of course I'm with one 8 years in the making now. So
what got you over that hump?
So I recognized, and I of course relate it to everything that, you're sharing, because I was definitely in my fear. I made all of the lists and I literally should have probably taken the be the queen course, because everything that you're saying, I'm like, yep. But I had to, it was a deep sense of self-awareness plus, being held and called forward by many of the trusted men in my life that I looked up to as friends that were mirroring back to me like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Do you realize what you've said in the past and what's actually happening? And you have somebody that's right under your nose that is just so incredible, but you've just friend zoned him for like years. And
how long were you friends before you dated?
Oh gosh, I think we had known each other for years, probably like 3 years before. Yeah. But he was also in a relationship, and I had newly gotten divorced. So that timing wasn't right. But then we would see each other like every year because of one thing or event or something like that. And then it kind of, so to your point, I mean, that list had to be burned.
Yep.
And I did make a spreadsheet too. And so I'm like, yep, I did have that list.
Yeah.
And he never made it on the list. And so I think that so often as strong type A goal getting, coming from a hyper vigilant nervous system, because I resonate with all that. And which is why I love your program so much, because it gives women permission to be met and to be seen in a way where, okay, we're recalibrating things. You're not telling everyone to kind of put on, fairy wings and kind of have a seance and all of these things, which I love, by the way, but I feel like you're giving people practical.
Yeah.
And how long is the program?
Really, really practical tools, things that work for me. And even, so many women are like, I've done this work before. I'm like, not like this and not with us and not in this container. And what I really love is Steph and I teach it together.
Oh, I didn't know he teaches.
He teaches it with me. And so you get that masculine perspective. And the program itself is 3 months. And it's live. We also have an evergreen program, but I encourage people to join us for the live. And what's really cool is that once you graduate, you're put into our monthly group coaching calls that go on forever.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's really amazing, because meeting your person is like 1%. Then you got to have a relationship with that person, right?
And then all the things come up in a relationship.
All the things. So what's great is that the continued coaching, we have women in there from the 2019 program who have kids, and come on and ask me parenting questions. And it's so good. And then we have women that just graduated last year who are still in the dating. And so you get those 90-minute monthly coaching calls to come on and ask questions about wherever you are as well. And that goes on, forever. So.
Oh my goodness. And this is going to be your, 6th year?
Well, we've done, I think this is our 7th, because we did a couple a year for a while.
Wow.
So
7th year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so glad that you guys are both doing this together. So who is this for? Is it for people who've already found the one as well?
Well, we've had people that do it, because what they realize is their stuff is coming up in relationship, and they have they want to clear some stuff. So people that really want the teachings of the inner child and the nervous system regulation and the communication and all of that will come in and do it. Even people that are newly dating. primarily who it's for is the me.
Yeah.
You know,
The me.
the us. Yes.
The us.
In 2017, right? You maybe a little earlier. So of like a woman who, you know, you've done your work, you're sick of, you're getting frustrated with dating. Maybe you've been divorced or you've had a breakup. You have kids and we have a lot of women that are in their 50s or 40s who, you know, have kids and are getting divorced and are getting back out in
again,
the scene, you know, and are like, what the heck do I do? And don't want to do the online thing. And really we meet you where you are, and just hold a really loving space. And why I think it's important that Steph and I teach it together is because, you know, we do a lot of rewiring of family of origin stuff. And Steph and I really hold that mom, dad presence for people so that you can really clear out your childhood stuff in the course and not take it into your dating life. Because that really is a game changer in terms of who you attract and how you show up.
And if you're not, working on those things, it's just going to show up in other ways.
Yes.
And in big ways.
Yes.
So we have a very special link. We'll put it in the show notes for anybody that is interested. I love this program so much. And I think that, you know, for anybody who is joining from this podcast, with this particular link, neetabhushan.com/queen, which will go directly onto the Be the Queen page. It's easier to remember, Brave Table fam, so we'll link it in the show notes. But I'll also add our 12-month self-care calendar that is rich with all of our amazing chai tonic recipes, because, you know, I love my chai here on the show. And we are going to get into a Spill the Chai section.
Ooh.
Okay, tell us a little bit about it. It is 3 months.
Yeah, it's 3 months. So depending on when people click that link. So the first thing we'll do is we'll have a 3-day workshop called Where Is He? Because that's what somebody asked. Where is he? That's what I was asking. Where is he? Turned out he was in Perth, but whatever. And we'll be teaching you over the course of 3 days a lot of the things we talked about here, like why you're attracting what you're attracting, you know, how to do inner child work that's really not that hard. Like people think it has to be like years in therapy. It doesn't. Even if you don't remember your childhood, like how to rewire your nervous system, and then kind of explaining like why you are the way where you are in your dating life, and you know what you can do. So that's going to be a really juicy 3-day workshop. We're going to take people through some nervous system practices, some experiential exercises, to give people a taste of what the program can be like. And then if you missed that and you're clicking on the link a little later, you'll be taken to the Be the Queen page where you can join us. It's a 3-month container. We have live 90-minute classes about every other week. Sometimes it's once a week, depending on the calendar. And we also have some somatic release stuff that Steph takes you through, some breath work. I have a fertility expert come and chat with us because that's a concern for a lot of women. I have a lot of special bonuses in there as well. And when you register for the course, you get that coaching once a month forever, right? We're not stopping that. We've been doing it since 2022. Wow. Once a month. And then you also get a free ticket to a live event. We do a special event just for Be the Queen graduates, an in-person event. In person.
Ooh.
That's really, like, some women say that was like they would have just paid for that day.
I feel like you just did one here in Austin.
We did. That was a year ago.
Oh my
gosh.
But
good memory.
Okay, yes. Amazing.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's a juicy program. We take good care of you.
Yes, you do. Wow. Okay, so I will link everything in the show notes. Now let's cut to our Spill the Chai. What is your guilty pleasure recently?
Audiobooks. I'm a junkie. Fiction. I've gone down this rabbit hole of female like heroines in the World War II era.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I
audio, not like the physical books?
Audio.
Okay, wow.
Like I look forward to Athena going to bed. I mean, what mom doesn't look forward to that after you've had a full day, right? I love her. And it's really nice when like my day is done. And I lay on my biomat and I like listen to my audiobook. Yeah.
Okay.
This has been within a year.
That's good. That's good.
I'm a junkie. I've run out of my credits.
What's your go-to life ritual when things get hectic?
Call for support.
Yeah.
A coach or a really good friend, like reach out. Because I can tend to go too in.
Oh, you go in.
I can really pull away and withdraw and go in. And that's not always the healthiest place for me to go. So I reach out.
Okay. Oh, that's good. That's such a good reminder. Such a good reminder. Okay, last question. What does it feel like to be brave in this era of motherhood?
I think honest, like being honest. And it also feels like to be brave in this era of motherhood feels unsteady. You know, I think that real courage requires not knowing. You know, real courage requires dancing in uncertainty. And nervous system regulation has been huge for me in motherhood, and knowing how to be grounded even when I don't know, right? Or things are hectic or whatever. And I also think that not knowing is really important in raising a child, because one of my intentions as a mom is not to project who I think she should be or what I think she should do on her. So the not controlling, because if we have that hypervigilance, that can show up in motherhood.
Totally.
Big time, and relationships, but especially in motherhoods, because we want to protect our kid from, you know, all the things, and we have these wants, and I have to go, no, this is her life. She came through me, but this is her life, and I'm here to guide, but I'm not here to mold. And that requires some bravery, a lot of courage, because I just have to step back. Yeah. When I want to intervene.
Tell me about it. That is like a mantra every day. Whew. All right. One word that describes this season.
One word that describes this season. Rebirth.
Beautiful. Christine Hassler, you are such a queen. Thank you for giving all of us permission to remember the queen in ourselves and all of the work that you've been doing for 2 decades.
Crazy.
You are literally an elder in this work. An elder queen in this work.
You know what? And I will take that as a compliment, because that's the other thing I'm embracing in this chapter of life is getting older.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of wisdom that comes with it. And I hope we as women, as we get older, can really lean into that and not fight for youth so much, because there's just a lot of wisdom and a lot of peace and a lot of maturity that comes with some wrinkles.
It's so true.
So true.
It's so true. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Whew, welcome back to the other side. Isn't Christine a gem? Now, if you haven't gotten her book, this is the 10-year anniversary. And if you are like us, you probably like audiobooks. So go ahead. I've linked her audiobook on The Expectation Hangover here in the show notes. I've also linked our very special unique bonus that we have when you join the Be the Queen program. It starts now. So go ahead and you can click on neetabhushan.com/queen and you will get that beautiful, juicy, amazing bonus that we are throwing in, plus all of the things that Christine talked about in the episode. If you want to go ahead and follow her and all of her journeys and all of her wisdom, her and her husband, Stephanos, go ahead to Instagram on @Christine Hassler, and you can link with her and all of the other programs that she has at christinehassler.com. I've also linked that for you in the show notes. If you are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. I know many of you watch this and have not hit the subscribe button, so what are you waiting for? Thank you so much for being here week after week. And if you loved any part of this episode, if anything just changed your perspective or maybe had you thinking, okay, this is different, go ahead and share this with a friend, a family member, a bestie, a sister, somebody that you want to even get to know or deepen your relationship better. And if you are watching this on Spotify, listening to this on iTunes, click that the thumbs up button, the like button, and let us know that you are listening to this. Drop a comment below, share this on Instagram, tag myself, Christine, or The Brave Table at The Brave Table. And I will see you next time. Don't forget to be just a little bit more brave.